You believe your life began at birth. This is the fundamental error that blinds you to your true nature. You have accepted a story of creation that is a profound and limiting lie. I ask you now to forget everything you think you know about yourself, about time, and about the origin of your consciousness, what you call you. The awareness that is listening to this very word did not suddenly spark into existence. It was never born, and it can never die. Before the body, before the mind, before any thought you have ever claimed as your own, there existed a boundless field of pure, unconditioned consciousness. This is not a religious concept, but the ultimate scientific reality, the very fabric of being from which all form, all life, all intelligence emerges. We have been hypnotized by the physical senses into believing we are fragments, isolated events in a linear timeline. This video is an invitation to shatter that illusion, to remember what you have always been. We will go beyond theory into the actual experience of the infinite. I am that predates all form. What you will discover here is not new information, but a startling recollection of your own eternal identity. This is the path of spiritual revelation. If you are ready to have the foundation of your world shaken to its core, to look upon the truth of your pre-existent self, then engage fully with what follows. Honor this awakening by subscribing to this channel, making it a sacred repository for this inner journey. And if you feel the stirring of that ancient memory, confirm it by commenting with the number 99, symbolizing the eternal nature that was, is, and ever shall be. Let us examine this first principle, for it is the cornerstone upon which your entire understanding of reality must be rebuilt. We speak of consciousness as being uncreated, as existing before what you call your birth. Immediately, the mind rebels. It presents the evidence of the senses, a body that ages, a memory that begins in childhood, a linear progression of events from a point of origin. This is the hypnosis of the material world, a convincing play of form that has captured your attention so completely you have mistaken the actor for the playwright, the character for the author of the script. Consider this not as a philosophical idea, but as the most practical fact of your existence. The very awareness you are using right now to follow these words, that is the subject of our exploration. This awareness, this knowingness, this capacity to be conscious, did you create it? Did you will it into being at a certain hour on a certain day? Did you assemble it from your thoughts or your experiences? The answer is a profound and evident no. You found it present. You emerged into it. It is the prior condition, the very space in which all your thoughts, feelings, and sensations appear and disappear. Think of your earliest memory. Already in that memory, you are there as the witness, the experiencer. That witnessing presence did not arrive with the memory. It was the prerequisite for the memory to be recorded at all. Before the memory's content, there was the capacity to know. That capacity is what we are pointing toward, and it carries no date of manufacture. Now, we take this from the abstract into the tangible fabric of your daily life. You sit in a room and a feeling of anxiety arises. You witness the feeling. The mind quickly weaves a story around it, a problem at work, a concern for the future. But pause there. Before the story of anxiety, before the label, my anxiety, there was a pure, impersonal awareness that first registered the sensation. That awareness is untouched by the sensation. It is like the screen upon which a frightening movie is projected. The movie may be full of drama and turmoil, but the screen itself remains pure, clear, and unchanged. Your essential consciousness is that screen. The drama of your personal life, your birth, your name, your achievements, your fears is the movie. You have become so engrossed in the plot that you have forgotten the immutable substance upon which it all plays out. You believe you are the anxious character, when in truth you are the silent, spacious awareness that is conscious of the character's anxiety. This is not a metaphor for escape. It is the literal truth of your being. This understanding dismantles the greatest weight you carry, the weight of personal authorship for everything that arises within you. When a thought of anger flashes through the mind, the conditioned self immediately claims it. I am angry. But is that true? Did you, as the conscious being, intentionally generate that specific biochemical and mental storm? Or did it simply arise, like a cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness? The sky does not create the cloud, nor is it stained by it. The sky simply is, providing the space for all weather patterns. Your consciousness is that sky. The clouds of thought, emotion, and sensation are the ever-changing weather. Seeing this, you begin to loosen the frantic, habitual grip of claiming every passing cloud as your own creation, your own identity. You start to reside as the sky itself, vast, silent, and prior to all conditions. This is why we say consciousness is uncreated. You cannot find its beginning because you are looking from it. Every attempt to locate its source is an object, a thought, a memory, a theory, appearing within the very consciousness you are trying to find. It is the ultimate premise, the one thing that cannot be proven because it is the proof itself. It is the light by which all objects are seen, but which cannot itself be seen as an object. In your everyday experience, this is the difference between being lost in thinking and becoming aware that you are thinking. That subtle shift, that flash of recognition. Ah, here is a thought. In that instant, you have stepped back into your native state as the conscious space. The pre-life consciousness that was present before the thought and will be present after it subsides. So we are not speaking of a historical event, a consciousness that existed in some distant past. We are speaking of the ever-present, ever-now reality of your own being. The before birth, we refer to as not a time on a calendar. It is a dimension of your existence that is a prior to the appearance of the personal self. It is the foundation of this very moment, when you are fully immersed in a task, perhaps gardening or creating art, and the sense of I momentarily vanishes, leaving only the pure engagement with the activity. In that gap, you taste it. When you first wake in the morning, in that blessed silence before the mental story of me and my day rushes in. There it is, in the space between two thoughts. There it is, shining. It is not something to be attained in the future, but something to be recognized as the background of the present. It is the silent, aware presence that reads these words. It was the same presence that witnessed your first breath, and it will be the same presence that witnesses your last. It is the only thing you truly possess, and yet you cannot possess it, for it is what you are. To seek it is to overlook it. To practice being it is to confess you believe you are not it already. The invitation is simply to stop, to be still, and to notice what has always been noticing. From this recognition of consciousness as the ever-present screen, we are brought to the inevitable and liberating confrontation. The sense of a separate, time-bound self is an illusion. This is not an intellectual dismissal of your experience, but a surgical unveiling of its true mechanics. You feel this self, constantly a center of volition, a repository of memory, a fragile entity navigating a world of other entities. It feels utterly, undeniably real. But I tell you, its reality is of the same order as the reality of a character in a dream. While the dream lasts, the character's fears and desires are all consuming. Upon waking, they are seen for what they are, transient images with no substance, no independent existence outside of the consciousness dreaming them. Your personal self is that character, and the awakening we speak of is the moment you begin to stir from the dream of separation. This illusion is maintained by a continuous hypnotic narration. From morning until night, a voice in your head comments, plans, regrets, and defends. It says, I am late. I am worried. I remember when she hurt me. I must succeed. This narrative weaves a convincing story of a protagonist moving through time. But observe this closely, not as a participant in the story, but as the awareness that hears the story being told. Who is it that is aware of this stream of thought? The thought says, I am anxious. Can the thought itself be anxious? Or is the thought merely a piece of data, a weather pattern in the mind, observed by a consciousness that itself is not anxious? The I in the thought is a phantom, a linguistic hook that claims ownership of the passing cloud. The true is the sky that holds it. The illusion is the instant, unconscious fusion of the two, the misidentification of the awareness with the content it is aware of. You are not the thought of being worried. You are the knowing space in which the worry arises, exists, and dissolves. See this play out in your most ordinary interactions. You are driving your car, and another driver cuts you off. Immediately, a flash of heat, a tightening in the chest, a thought. How rude! They did that to me! In that instant, the illusion solidifies. A neutral event, one vehicle changing lanes, has been instantly personalized into a story of a meh, being wronged by a them. The entire drama depends entirely on the unexamined assumption of a separate, central self at the heart of the experience. But what if, in the very next moment, you catch yourself? You notice the physical reaction, you hear the angry thought, and you realize This is a reaction happening, not reaction, but simply a reaction appearing in the field of consciousness. The personal sting vanishes. The event is stripped of its narrative. You may still take appropriate action, but you do so from clarity, not from the clenched fist of a threatened self. The other driver is no longer an antagonist in your personal movie. They are part of the total, seamless flow of life, and your consciousness is the space in which the entire scene, including your own response, is unfolding. This sense of a time-bound self is the source of all psychological suffering. It lives in the phantom zone between a remembered past and an imagined future. It drags the corpses of old grievances into the present and borrows trouble from a tomorrow that may never come. It believes its existence is contingent upon its story, its achievements, its relationships, its possessions. But have you ever truly found this self? When you look within, what do you actually encounter? You encounter a sensation, then a thought about that sensation, then a memory associated with that thought, then an emotion triggered by that memory. It is a ceaseless cascade of objects, all appearing as to you. You are the witness of this cascade. The self you believe yourself to be is just the most familiar and compelling character in the show, a composite of memories, habits, and conditioned responses. It has no solid core. It is a process, not an entity. To see this directly is to experience a thrilling and profound freedom. The weight of being the central manager of a fragile life begins to lift. You start to live from the standpoint of the witness, the impersonal awareness, and the personal self becomes a functional instrument, a vehicle for navigation in the world of form, not the master of your being. You use the mind, but you are no longer used by it. You honor your responsibilities, but you are not defined by their outcomes. You feel emotions deeply, but you are not drowned in them, for you know they are movements within you, not the definition of you. The tyranny of the clock and the calendar softens, for while the body operates in time, your essential being resides in the eternal now, the only point from which past and future are ever perceived. The personal story continues. It has its joys and sorrows, but it is no longer the prison wall. It is seen for what it is, a story appearing in the boundless, timeless, and utterly free consciousness that you are. The thrill is in the falling away, the unclenching, the recognition that you were never the captive you believed yourself to be, but have always been the vastness in which the entire drama of captivity was dreamed. From this thrilling identification, we arrive at the heart of the revelation. Your true identity is the infinite, impersonal. I am. This is not a new belief to adopt, but the direct and unadorned recognition of what remains when the story of the separate self is seen through. That familiar, personal I, the one tied to your name, your history, your preferences, is a temporary constellation of thoughts and sensations. But the awareness that knows those thoughts, the presence that illuminates those sensations, is of an entirely different order. It is the I am that stands prior to all qualification. It is not I am John, or I am successful, or I am afraid. It is the pure, unmodified sense of being itself, the simple, undeniable fact that you are. This can seem abstract until you bring your attention to the raw experience of this moment. You are reading these words. Before the mental comment about them, there is a knowing that you are reading. That knowing is the I am. It has no shape, no age, no biography. It is the silent, ever-present subject behind all your changing experiences as an object. In the midst of a busy day, pause for just an instant and turn your attention away from what you are doing and toward the one who is aware of the doing. Don't think about it. Simply feel into the fact of your own presence. There is a living, aware space here. That is it. That is the I am. It is not something you possess. It is what you are. It is the very light of consciousness by which you perceive the world, and yet, like your eye which sees but cannot see itself, it cannot be perceived as a thing. It can only be known as yourself. Consider the profound implications of this in your daily life. All your suffering, all your striving originates from the personal I that feels lacking, threatened, or incomplete. It is the voice that says, I am not enough. I need to be loved. I must protect myself. The impersonal I am knows none of these struggles. It is already whole, complete, and sufficient. It does not need to acquire anything to be itself. When you unconsciously operate from the personal you are like a wave on the ocean, frantically trying to secure its own water, fearing its end when it crashes upon the shore. To recognize yourself as the impersonal I am is to realize you are the entire ocean, vast, deep, and the very substance of all waves. The wave's form is temporary, but its essence is the ocean, which is eternal. Your personal identity is the wave. Your true identity is the ocean of being. This realization transforms your relationship with every experience. When a wave of grief passes through, the personal I clings to it, claims it, and says, I am devastated. But the I am simply knows the grief, contains it, and allows it its natural movement. The grief does not damage or diminish the I am. It is witnessed by it. The same is true for joy. The personal I clings to joy, fears its loss, and says, I am happy. I must keep this. But the I am knows the joy without clutching it, for it is the space in which all emotions come and go, itself unchanged. You begin to live from this impersonal depth, and life becomes a spontaneous flow. Decisions arise from clarity, not from the tangled web of personal want and fear. Compassion flows naturally because the sense of separation that breeds judgment has dissolved. You act not to bolster a fragile self, but because action is the appropriate expression of the moment, emanating from the infinite resource of being. Do not mistake this for becoming cold or detached. On the contrary, it is the end of alienation. You are no longer a lonely fragment looking out at a hostile or separate world. You are the aware presence in which the entire world, the trees, the sky, other people, your own body arises. Everything is happening within you, the infinite I am, the barrier between in here and out there melts. The other person before you is not separate from the consciousness that perceives them. They are an appearance within your own awareness. This is the foundation of true love, a love that is not a transaction between two selves, but the recognition of one shared being appearing as two forms. The thrill here is the dissolution of all limits. The personal, I is defined by its boundaries, my body, my mind, my family, my accomplishments. The impersonal, I am, is boundless. It is not contained within your skull. It is the awareness that fills the room, that hears sounds distant and near, that perceives the vastness of the sky. It is without location, because it is the space in which all locations appear. To abide as this is to feel an expansion beyond the confines of the physical form, a quiet, unshakable freedom that nothing in the world of objects can give or take away. You are not a character searching for meaning in the plot. You are the consciousness for whom the entire story, with all its beauty and tragedy, is unfolding. And this consciousness, this simple, profound I am, is what you have always been prior to any name, any story, any birth. It is the silent answer to the question of your existence, waiting not to be found, but to be recognized as the very essence of the finder. Thus, if our true identity is this ever-present, infinite I am, then the journey we are on is not one of building, achieving, or acquiring something new. It is a journey of remembrance. Awakening is not an acquisition. It is a startling recollection of what you have eternally been. You are not becoming enlightened. You are recalling that you are, and have always been, the light of consciousness itself. This is the most crucial turning point on the path, for it shifts the entire endeavor from straining toward a future goal to relaxing into a present truth. The seeker, striving for a distant spiritual achievement, is itself the final veil over the very reality it seeks. The end of seeking is the recognition that what is sought is the seeker's own substance. Consider how this plays out in the most practical terms. You may sit to meditate with the goal of attaining peace. You struggle with thoughts, you fight distraction, you measure your success or failure. This is the acquisition model, and it reinforces the very sense of a lacking self you are trying to transcend. But what if you approached the same meditation as an act of remembrance? You are not trying to create a silence. You are remembering the silent awareness that is already there beneath the noise. You are not trying to become present. You are recognizing the presence that is already glaringly obvious, the presence that is reading these words. The shift is subtle but revolutionary. It moves from doing to being, from effort to allowance. The thought arises, and instead of battling it, you remember. This is a thought appearing in the space of the awareness that I am. That simple, gentle recognition is the remembrance. It is the momentary return of the prodigal son to his true home. This is why spiritual practices are not factories for manufacturing enlightenment, but tuning forks for triggering recollection. The sacred text, the teacher's pointer, the moment of beauty that takes your breath away, These do not implant wisdom into an empty container. They resonate with the wisdom already inherent within you, stirring a memory so deep it feels like homecoming. A wave of profound nostalgia may wash over you, not for a past event, but for a state of being you know intimately, yet have somehow forgotten. That nostalgia is the echo of your own eternity. When you hear a truth that makes your entire being resonate, it is not new information being downloaded. It is the inner confirmation of something you have always known at the core of your being, now being mirrored in the world of form. See this in your daily encounters with beauty or crisis. You stand before a breathtaking sunset, and for a moment, the mental chatter ceases. The personal I, with its worries and plans, is suspended. There is just the awe, the vibrant colors, the vastness. In that gap, what happens? You remember. You remember a state of pure experiencing, of being one with the perception where the separateness vanishes. The sunset did not give you this state. It simply provided the conditions for you to remember it. Similarly, in a moment of shock or profound loss, the familiar structure of the personal self can be shattered. In the raw, exposed stillness that follows the initial impact, there is often a paradoxical clarity and peace. This, too, is a ruthless form of remembrance. Stripped of your usual story, you are thrown back onto the bare essence of being, the I am, that remains when everything else is shaken. It is not the crisis that brings peace, but the crisis that obliterates the noise, allowing you to remember the peace that was always there. The great trap is to turn remembrance itself into a future project. I will remember my true nature someday when I am more evolved, when I have meditated longer. This postponement is the mind's last clever defense. Remembrance can only happen now. It is not the culmination of a long process. It is the nature of the instant when seeking stops. It is the sudden, shocking realization that you have been looking for your glasses while they are perched on your head. The search was not wrong. It was simply unnecessary. The thrill of this is incomparable. It is the thrill of the punchline to the universe's greatest joke, where you discover you are both the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer. Every moment becomes an opportunity for this recollection. The taste of cool water, the feeling of your breath, the sound of a child's laughter, each can be the trigger if you allow it. Not because these objects are special, but because they are happening now, and your true nature is only ever found in the now. It is the constant, unchanging background of all experience. To remember is to shift your attention from the captivating movie to the aware screen, and to realize, with a shock of delight, that you are not in the movie at all. You are the luminous space that makes the viewing possible, and that space has never for a single instant been absent, forgotten, or lost. It has only been overlooked in favor of the dazzling drama it displays. With this understanding that awakening is a present, moment recollection, we must now address a critical distinction, one that marks the difference between a life of conceptual spirituality and one of genuine, unshakable freedom. This is the realization that direct spiritual experience transcends all intellectual theory. You can read every sacred text, memorize every doctrine, and debate every nuance of philosophy, and yet remain completely untouched by the truth they point toward. The map is not the territory. The menu is not the meal. Theory is the mind's attempt to capture, categorize, and communicate an experience that exists beyond the mind's reach. To settle for theory is to live in the lobby of the palace, studying the floor plans while never entering the throne room itself. Think of it this way. You can read 1,000 scientific papers on the molecular composition and physiological effects of sweetness. You can understand sucrose at a theoretical level completely. But if you have never tasted honey, that direct, instantaneous, wordless burst of sensation on the tongue, you do not know sweetness. You know about it. The theory is about an object. The experience is the reality itself. Consciousness is not an object. It is the subject, the very essence of you. Therefore, it can never be known as about. It can only be as known as. No amount of theory can give you this. It can only prepare the ground, point the finger, and then it must be abandoned for the direct look. The mind will desperately try to turn the glimpse into a new theory, a new belief system to cling to. This is the final and most subtle trap, becoming a believer in consciousness instead of being consciousness. This is why your daily life is the only valid laboratory. The proof is not in a book. It is in the immediacy of your perception. Take a simple action like washing your hands. The theory of spirituality might speak of mindfulness or presence. That is just a concept. Now, do it directly. Feel the temperature of the water, the sensation of the soap, the movement of your hands. But here is the key. Do not just feel the sensations. Notice the one who is feeling. Be aware of awareness itself, the space in which these sensations are known. That shift from the object to the subject is the beginning of direct experience. It is not a thought. It is a turning of the light of consciousness upon itself. It is a living fact, utterly self-evident and undeniable in the moment it occurs. That is worth more than all the libraries of spiritual theory ever compiled. Or consider a moment of conflict. The theory might say, you are not the ego, or see the divine in the other. These are beautiful pointers. But in the heat of the moment, when anger flares, theory evaporates. The direct experience is to feel the anger as a storm of energy in the body, to hear the violent thoughts like thunder, and yet, in the very midst of it, to find that still, silent point of observation that is not angry. That point is not a theory. It is a discovery. It is the conscious space that contains the storm, and in that discovery, the storm loses its power to define you. It may still rage, but it is now a storm happening within you, not a storm that is you. This experiential knowing changes everything. You have not applied a principle. You have touched a reality. This direct path is unnerving to the intellect because it offers nothing to hold on to. It is pure, naked being. It is the thrill of stepping off the solid ground of concepts into the alive, unknown flow of immediate perception. When you walk in nature, instead of thinking, beautiful tree, you let the visual impression of the tree strike you without the intermediary of the label. There is a direct communion, a silent conversation between the awareness that you are and the form appearing within it. In that space, there is no you and a tree. There is a unitary experiencing. This is not a theory of non-duality, it is the lived reality of it. The theory comes afterward, when the mind tries to describe what can never be described. The danger of remaining in theory is that it creates a spiritual persona, an evolved self that is just as illusory and burdensome as the old, unenlightened one. It trades one set of concepts for another. The direct experience, however, annihilates all personas. It leaves you naked, innocent and free, standing as the awareness prior to any identity, spiritual or otherwise. It is utterly simple and therefore easily overlooked. It requires no special knowledge, only the courage to set aside what you think you know and to attend to what is glaringly, vibrantly, and always already the case. This is where the thrill becomes constant. Life is no longer a problem to be solved by the correct philosophy, but a mystery to be lived from the depths of your own being. Every sensation, every sound, every emotion becomes a gateway out of the conceptual world and into the real, a fresh opportunity to discard the map and walk the living terrain of your own boundless existence. Having moved from theory into the terrain of direct experience, we come to the ultimate and most practical integration of this entire revelation. Your eternal being is your present scientific reality. This is not a comforting belief for the end of your days. It is the operational truth of this very instant, as verifiable as the law of gravity. We are not speaking of a poetic metaphor or a religious hope, but of the fundamental nature of existence that you can test and prove in the laboratory of your own awareness, with the immediacy of your senses as the instruments. The word, eternal, frightens the time-bound mind. It imagines an endless duration, a boring stretching out of time. But eternity is not more time, it is the absence of time. It is the dimension of the now that is not strung between past and future, but is the ever fresh, ever present ground from which the idea of time itself arises. And you are that, right now. Science at its highest level no longer deals with solid, separate objects, but with fields of probability, with interconnected waves of energy, with a universe that is fundamentally conscious, responsive, and unified. What you perceive as a solid body is a shimmering dance of particles appearing in the vast field of space. That field is not out there. The space within your body and the space around your body is one continuous, unbroken field. And what is that field, if not a manifestation of intelligence, of being, of aware presence? Your own senses confirm this. Close your eyes. What do you hear? A sound. Where does that hearing happen? It does not happen out there at the source. It happens here, in this aware space you call yourself. The sound arises within your consciousness. The sight of the room around you, it is not out there. The entire visual field is appearing on the screen of your perceiving awareness. Your body itself, its sensations of weight, warmth, or touch are all appearances within this conscious field. The scientific reality is that the universe you experience is an internal phenomenon projected within the only theater that exists, the theater of consciousness, and you are not a character in that theater. You are the theater itself, the empty, aware space that allows for all form. This transforms the mundane into the miraculous. You are drinking a cup of tea. The old, separate self experiences it as an object out there, being consumed by a body in here. The direct, scientific view is this: a spectrum of warmth, a complex flavor, a visual shape, and a subtle aroma are all arising as a unified sensory event within the field of your awareness. The cup, the tea, the hand, the taste, all are seamless modulations of the one conscious substance that you are. There is no true separation, only the appearance of distinction within a unified field. This is not philosophy. It is the raw data of experience when stripped of the superimposed concept of a solid inside self and a solid outside world. The boundary of your skin is a useful conceptual line for navigation, but it is not an absolute barrier in the realm of being. The air you breathe moves freely across that imagined line. The sounds of the world resonate within you. The sunlight warms you, not as an external agent acting on a separate object, but as a single, undivided energetic event appearing in consciousness. Where, then, is death in this equation? The personal self, the collection of memories and habits, is a pattern within this field. Like a whirlpool in a river, it has a recognizable form, but it is not separate from the river. When the conditions that sustain the whirlpool change, the form dissolves back into the flow. The whirlpool did not go somewhere. The water that composed it remains, simply flowing in a new pattern. The consciousness that you are is the river, not the whirlpool. The ending of a particular pattern is not the ending of the substance. The fear of death is the whirlpool's fear of losing its distinctive shape. Not understanding it is the water itself. When you know yourself as the water, the aware, eternal substance, the terror of the shape's dissolution evaporates. You see that the essence cannot be extinguished. Therefore, the thrill of this understanding is its absolute immediacy and practicality. It is not a far-off heaven. It is the peace you feel when you are so absorbed in a moment that time disappears. It is the love you feel when the sense of separation from another vanishes and there is just a flowing connection. It is the silent, stable presence you discover underneath the anxiety about a future event, a presence that is here now, untouched by the mental story of what might be. This presence is your eternal being. It is the one constant in a lifetime of change. You can rely upon it as the ultimate fact. In every moment of doubt, you can perform this simple scientific experiment. Turn attention away from the content of the doubt and toward the aware space in which the doubt is happening. That space is undeniable. It is prior to the doubt. and it will remain after the doubt passes. It is your fundamental reality, the one thing you have never been and can never be without. To live from this is to live in truth, not in story. It is to anchor yourself not in the shifting sands of circumstance, but in the bedrock of your own infinite, conscious existence, which was before birth, is now, and ever shall be.